All right, here we are. Thanks for joining me. It's day 5 of my 28-day vlogging challenge. And as I said yesterday, it sure is more challenging than I expected. The only time I have today is on my lunch break right now. So I don't have time to edit later on. So I'm just here to talk about this week. It's neurodiversity week, I believe. I saw a couple of posts yesterday on LinkedIn. One of them was from an old colleague of mine, not so old, in my last job. So in the last 5 years, I worked with him. Great guy, who mentioned that he discovered when he was 30 that he had ADHD, and how him finding out about that sort of recast a lot of the things that he thought of. I'm putting it into my own words, but perhaps as failure or not being good enough, like the inability to start things or complete tasks, the constant changing jobs, lots of job changes. So it's all stuff that I very much thought was a problem for me. I thought it was an inadequacy. I wasn't good enough. And I've come to really understand neurodiversity in the last, year or two, really. And it's been a game changer for me. So part of, wanting to help and share information here is that idea that can help other people get away from the chains, I suppose, or the that horrible inner critic, just to accept yourself and to accept that we all have a different way of approaching and understanding things. It's been very inclusive for me, kind of a traditional guy here. So on that note, the subject, the title I've picked for today's live stream, and it really is just flying by the seat of my pants, is from Turn Me Loose, Loverboy song, Turn Me Loose, which I always love hearing still. Takes me back to time. But yeah, I've always had to do things my way. There's a sort of stubbornness to that. But I realize it's the only way I can do things. For example, this morning I had a task, unexpected task, come across my desk, as it were. Had to do a reach out and contact people, and so my initial reaction to that, to change, because I'm very fixed in my thinking, very structured. I like to do things the same way, in my way. So my first reaction was kind of a panic, but I now realize that's actually the best thing for me. That's how I thrive under pressure like that. So I went and smashed the task and got the task done. I'm not big noting myself to say that. I'm just saying I now understand that. Yeah, that even though I felt that the tightness in the chest, the panic that I'm not going to get this right. Why did it have to be like this? Change to my routine. I like to control things, control the outcomes. Even though that was my reaction, I went through it, and I did the task that was required. So my calendar is set up in. I use all different colors for different events in my calendar. And I live by that. Now I understand that that's part of the visual thing that I need. I need to see things, and I need to have a system that I understand. Pause, take a drink here. Talk among yourselves. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, I suppose, today is persistence. You might have heard me say before, persistence beats resistance. It's my favorite quote, and that I first knew about that when I was in hospital after my car accident. My dad had given me a little card. I had it next to my bed. It says about persistence beats resistance, trumps everything. And I think it's really true. Example of that is I had a service call. I'm working from home today because I had a service call from our builders. And it was to do with the tiles that hadn't been laid properly in our home, and they kind of tried to knock it back last year. They said, "Oh, it's only you only cover for 2 years." Anyway, I took it further, got a Tyler in, and he said, "No, no, this is structural. You can take a lodge a complaint with the I think it's the building commission." So I went through the process and lodged the complaint. Anyway, they've come out now. So it's taken several months to get to this point, but they're going to fix it because it wasn't done properly. And it's just a tribute to um, persistence. Why am I showing this? It's not to say how good I am. It's to say to encourage you. If you think, and the example again of persistence is, I'm here doing this. I'm getting 0 views on my content. I'm faithful. Sorry, I believe in what I'm doing, and I think that there's a purpose behind this that I'm confident in. So that's why I keep showing up and doing it. I was talking about the way I work. I've got to find a way that's just right for me, right? And I realize I've got this. I can be very fixed in my thinking, right? Fixed thinking, not a growth mindset. And I know that growth mindset is the way to go. Rigidity, I suppose, is not what you want, but fixed thinking, there's a lot to be said for it as well. Like, you've got processes, I've got things that do work, right? So what else? I'm just looking at my notes here because I am, as you can tell, talking off the cuff. I'm trying to build up on improve my skills there. These were some of the points I wanted to address yesterday, and I didn't get there because I ended up cutting down that video to just 1 minute. It should have made it a short. I was trying to stay on target, stay focused. So one thing in terms of the neurodiversity for me is one kind of realization is that I absolved my parents, of what I thought, what I could have held against them. Because being a parent myself, I realize how challenging it is to raise people who are like you and not like you at the same time. That's a given. If you're a parent, you'll know what I mean. But also the lack of understanding and knowledge that parents of my generation had, for things like what I'm just talking about now, neurodiversity. We know so much more now. We're so much more inclusive, and we're probably going to know more. So I don't regret the way I was raised or my upbringing, anything like that. Like I say, I don't think a regret is anything to live with. You can't you can't live with regrets, right? My life just turned out the way it's turned out so far, and I don't know where the future is going, but I'm feeling good about things right now, including doing this, despite the apparent, you know, so far I don't know where I'm going. Or I don't know if people know where I'm going, but I do feel I've got a mission and a purpose here, just right for me. I was wondering about you see a lot of Venn diagrams. I think that's what they are, where things are crossing over. Like the overlap between autism and ADHD. Couldn't think of the word ADHD. And how things can be misdiagnosed. And in one way, I don't like labeling things as one thing or another, but of course it helps us understand, right? And one thing that I'm kind of aware of is what I think is being very sensory stimulated or sensitive to sensory input, right? Like smells and sounds. And I wonder if that's actually more of a hypervigilance that's related to a trauma from our fire. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer. It's a fascinating, like, I just wonder about that. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm very sensitive to noises at night. Super sensitive. Like, I feel like I'm a lighter sleeper. One thing I've kind of wanted to say, and I don't think I've expressed it on my channel, is just talking about how we processed coming back to our home to try and take things out from what was left behind, and how a person might think that we were kind of sad, or didn't know how to cope. It was almost like I was on autopilot, and there was so much that we left in the house that wasn't damaged, or we could have salvaged, I suppose, but we had an entire house worth, or what was left of the house, and we couldn't put it anywhere. You can't just say, "Oh, we get some storage crates." It wasn't like that. It wasn't planned. So we were living in a temporary accommodation. We didn't have even suitcases. We had nothing. We had no money. It was all until the insurance started releasing funds. Um, and that always just that's just a strange part of the lived experience of a total loss. And I know that I want when I first started my channel as a reaction to this life event, losing everything. Uh, my focus was then on helping people who'd been through what I've been through, and years on now, I realize that I want to speak to a broader base of people like you who I can help, because I've been through a whole lot of things, right? I'm not saying that my troubles are the worst in the world at all, but no way. Like, I'm very thankful and very grateful that I'm in the position I am, and I've got the experience and the insight and the capability to face these challenges. I like to think, and I know you may not have had this experience, but I like to think that that idea that we don't get any challenge that we can't face. We only get a challenge that we. Again, getting back to the fire, pretty much the defining event in my adult life. I always have this idea in my mind that as we were leaving that morning, and I know it didn't turn out like this, but this is my memory of it, and memories are very shaky, right? That I said to my daughter, this is nothing but an opportunity, because now if someone's mean to you, or if someone you don't get a job, whatever, you can say, I left the house in this condition. I walked out of my house and I survived. I think I'm going to have to wrap it up now, because someone's just come home, and I don't think they're going to be very comfortable with me talking like this here. This is how I make time. I literally grab the few minutes I can to do the things I need to do and want to do. So if you stayed here, and if you got anything from this, let me know. I'd love to hear. Thank you for your time. And this is day 5 of my 28-day vlogging. Let's see where tomorrow goes. Have a great day.